What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Talk of the Ring Show. If you do not know who I am, then that means you are not subscribed. And if you are not subscribed, you're going to be missing so many great episodes, let alone today's, which I've been trying to book this for like the last 2 months, and it's been a lot, but it's okay. We got her here. We also had off on yesterday, 2 days ago, whatever. Please make sure you're checking that out. And really quickly, before we get into today's episodes, I want to wish your PPW's No Limits champion, Rembert, a happy birthday, although it is tomorrow, but I'm going to clip this and show him because he is my favorite, although he is a face now, and I don't like them faces. So let's switch you back to a heel. But let's give a warm welcome. I might say her name wrong, but let's give a warm welcome to Clara.
Yes,
Clara.
you got it right.
Yeah. So how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I told you a little bit before we started. I'm like, I've been trying for this so long because I'm pretty sure it was Rhode Island I seen you in. And I was like, oh my God, that's the girl. Like, I obsessed with heels. So like you were badass. And I was like, okay, I like her vibe. Let me get her on and let's do the thing.
Thank you.
So I always hop right into it with who or what got you into wrestling?
I have two brothers and I'm the middle child, so their decisions overruled mine. So they always wanted to watch wrestling on the TV. So ever since I can remember, it's just always been on the TV. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And as I got older, I got like more obsessed with it. As I was more able to understand like what was going on besides just seeing two people hit each other. And I was very intrigued, and the itch never left me. So I was like, I guess this is what I got to do.
Yeah, so like that's really cool. Like you got the two brothers, so you're like, okay, now I get to practice on you guys for free. Now in my case, I only have a younger brother he knows about wrestling. He's been to like a gazillion shows, but it's not his thing. So I just pull out wrestling moves all the time and be like, oh, get over here, I'm practicing.
Right.
Yeah, and then he roughs house back. I'm like, well, if you can do it to me, then you should be able to watch wrestling.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. So who trains you?
I was originally trained by Dr. Tom Pritchard, and now I train with the Beer City Bruiser.
Okay, so how long? So from the time you started training, how long would you say that was until you got like a real match in front of a crowd?
Oh gosh. So when I was at Dr. Tom's, I want to say it was a little over 4 weeks. There was a little indie promotion that was in Tennessee that needed a woman's wrestler, and he was like, hey, you should go. And I was like, brother, I've been training for 4 weeks. I don't think I'm ready for this. He was like, no, you'll be fine. So yeah, I want to say I was very, very rarely do you get a match that fast, but I was about a little over 4 weeks.
Wow. I mean, that's good though, because like even from that point, you still get to like practice and get used to doing it. Like obviously you continue to train, right?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So you always get that experience, and you probably took that first match and was like, oh my God. It probably wasn't that good, but like it was a first match. It's not always going to be perfect.
Right. I think I told everybody, I said, do not film this. Do not show everybody. Like, this is a secret.
Yeah, I'm that person that like I will love you to pieces, but if you tell me not to do something, I'm gonna do the complete opposite and do it and be like, oh my God, so remember this? Like you did this.
Right.
But you play the role, obviously you're a wrestler, but you're married to a wrestler, right?
Yeah.
And you get to manage him. So how was like that experience, like both of you being involved?
It makes it a lot easier because obviously your life needs to be consumed by wrestling to an extent, but it also makes it hard where you need a break from wrestling, but we're both wrestlers. So even when we're on a date, we're like on our phone and we're like, oh, look at this. I'm like, oh my God, we can't get a break. But I would say the only downside would be like being able to separate work from marriage, because when we first started dating, there was a few fights where it was wrestling related, and I was like,
yeah,
great. Like personal life from work life.
No, yeah, I get that. So I've got to ask the question, did you guys meet from wrestling?
Yes, we did. Yeah, it was February of last year, I think. I just moved back from Tennessee because when I was in Tennessee, I was with Dr. Tom over there. And I moved back home to North Carolina and I went to AML and I saw him there and I was like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. And it wasn't really like I was looking for a relationship because I was like, I'm just going to wrestle. But when we started talking, I was like, this guy's pretty cool. I guess I'll just hang out with him. And then, we caught feelings.
That's how it works. No,
Right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had to be the one to ask the question. I mean, I think that's perfect. You met your soulmate in wrestling and you both are wrestlers. So you guys, do you typically always like go on the shows together or like be on the same shows?
For the most part, yeah. Every once in a while. Last week, we were separated on Sunday because he had a show in Winston-Salem and I had a show in Raleigh. So very rarely does it happen, but yeah.
Okay, but that's cool. Like you still get to spend time, and sometimes you're just like, yeah, I seen enough of you. Just do whatever you want. Like I need a break.
Yeah, I'm glad football season's starting again, actually, because now he wants to go out with his friends and watch football, and I'm like, go ahead.
Yeah, that's at least they still have sun. I mean, unless you're an Eagles fan or a Cowboys fan, I'll be like, nope, you gotta go, because those two teams are not it. So, if people don't know, are you a heel or are you a face?
I'm a heel. When I first started, I was a face, and then very quickly I was a heel. And then Dr. Tom looked at me and he was like, I always knew you were a bitch. And I said, okay, thank you. So I guess this was, I guess.
Yeah, I say that all the time on here. I'm like, for me personally, I can tell if a person's a heel or a face. And like at that moment, because my brother is Nolan Pierce, he wrestles with Mark Alexander. And so when we went to Rhode Island that time, I was like, wow, she's a bitch, but I like that. Because like I go for the heels, like they just like we always have that feud and then we become like best friends. So it always ends up working out.
Right.
But I think you can probably play good as both, but I think you're better as a heel.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it just vibes. Like you don't take nobody's.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're a bad bitch and you know that. You're like, well, I don't need you to tell me that I'm great. I already know I'm great.
Right. Right.
So what would you say is your favorite thing about wrestling?
The fact that you can just disconnect from the real world for a little bit, I think is the best part because it's like you're in your own little world when you're in the ring. Yeah. And it's super fun to be able to tell a story and take people through an emotional roller coaster for like 10 minutes. And I think that's the best part is the creativity of it.
No, yeah, I that's honestly amazing because like you could be having the worst week of your life, but the minute like you step into a show or you're watching wrestling, it's like you're in a different world just for that time frame.
Right.
So it's really great, and especially like with the roller coasters of emotion. When there's a match against two people I like, I'm like, I don't care who wins, let's just be over with it.
Right.
But yeah, it works. So on the opposite side of that, what would you say is the hardest part about wrestling for you?
Honestly, for women, I would say is getting in there with somebody who's putting the same amount of work as you. Because unfortunately for women's wrestling, there's a lot of girlies out there who, don't want to try that hard. And that is the most frustrating part. I'd say like at least once every few months, I'll text my coach and be like, hey, I'm about to like quit because this girl is pissing me off. And he's like, no, relax, you'll be fine. So that's the part that I complain about the most.
No, yeah, and I mean I get that because some people are just not as great, and like that's the bad bitch in you. I'd be like, yeah, I know I'm better than them, and like I do that all the time at work too. I'm like, I already know I'm better than like I love my coworkers. Don't get me wrong, but I work in a supermarket, so they be testing my nerves. I'm like, well, I know I'm a bad bitch, and you guys are not gonna sit here and sass me like you know how to do your job,
right? Oh so, my god. It's my favorite when they act like they know what they're doing and I just look at them and I'm like, you sound like an idiot. Like,
exactly. 100%. I totally get it. Like, I think sometimes I just be wanting to pull out wrestling moves in the supermarket because I'm like, people be asking the stupidest questions or doing the stupidest thing. I'm like, guys, what are you doing?
Yeah. common sense isn't a thing anymore. And I think
Honestly.
my husband gets mad at me when I say this, but I really do think that like sometimes it's okay to tell somebody, hey, maybe stop talking because you sound dumb. Like,
Honestly.
and I
Like,
don't think we're wrong for thinking that.
no, I don't think so either. Like, especially if they've been in, like, let's say, in wrestling longer, or they've been, in my case, working at the supermarket longer, and we come in there, like, we obviously we're bad bitches. We doing it better than them, and then they try to tell us, like, no,
Right.
like we
Right.
know what we're doing. Who you may be here for 60 years, but we the new gen. We gonna you
Right.
gonna be out of here at some point.
Mm-mm.
But I get it. I do get it. So, if a younger fan came up to you at the show and was like, I want to do exactly what you're doing, what
Mhm.
advice would you give them?
I would say work hard and train every single day, because it doesn't matter how big, how strong, how athletic you are. If you're not putting in the work, then it's not going to work out for you. And just give it all you have, because if you really want something, then it's going to happen.
Honestly, and obviously, even if you're at that point, like if you're a 6-year-old, obviously you can't start training at that point. Stay
Right.
a fan and work, progress. Like that's kind of what I did. Like 6-year-old me, I started as an Indies fan. I started going more to the shows. Now, 15-year-old me at that point last year, I was like, okay, I started the podcast and I started doing more stuff at the shows. And like by the time I'm 18, who knows, I might be a ring announcer or doing something bigger for the show. So it's all a work in progress. Just think
Right.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if AEW called and
Mm-hmm.
WWE called at the exact same time, you could only take one. Which one would you take?
100% WWE.
Okay.
Respectfully.
Respectfully.
Yes. Yeah.
Is
I
there...
just think their quality of women is better.
Yeah.
And I'd probably be less annoyed over there.
Yeah, but I think like also that's like the good thing about like AEW and WWE is you both like there's different tastes and different like flavors. Like you get a mix of that and a mix of that. Obviously in WWE, they're more like strict of you. You couldn't stay in the indies, but like on WWE or AEW, you can still do some of the indie shows.
Right.
So I think they both have their good and their bad, but it's wrestling. So let's be real, it's all good in general.
Yeah. Right.
So do you have a dream venue or a dream like place you want to wrestle in at some point in your career that you haven't already?
I've always wanted to go to Japan because I grew up also watching New Japan. So Kurikan Hall and the Tokyo Dome have always been like at the top of the list. And of course, Madison Square Garden here in America. But those three and the ECW arena, I've always wanted to go to the ECW arena.
Like I said, it's a work in progress. As long as you keep putting in the work, you may be there one day.
Right.
So now, out of all the places you have wrestled, has there been a place that you were like, I really like this place and I will wrestle here any opportunity I get?
Not really. I haven't been to that one place yet where I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
Because
Still getting your feel.
Especially in the summer, everyone's been wanting to do outside shows for some reason, and it's like 1,000,000 degrees outside, and I'm not thriving in the heat.
Yeah, I mean, I have never been to an outside wrestling show, except at the end of the month, I'm going to one, which I'm super excited, but I don't know how it could play because, like, it could be either like cold outside. Like September is so weird with the weather, especially like we're in Pennsylvania. Who knows? It could be raining, it could be hot, it could be cold. We don't know.
Right.
So honestly, I'm excited because obviously it's my first outdoor wrestling show, but like at the same time, it's like, I don't know how I feel about it.
Right.
But I can get as a wrestler too is probably like if it's 1,000 degrees outside and you're going in the ring and doing them crazy moves, it's probably 10 times worse for you.
Yeah. And last week I was so irritated because you would think if you're running an outside show, you check the weather before to make sure it's not raining. This guy did not do that. And there's a hurricane coming up in here. And it was pouring rain and it was nonstop for like 2 hours. And I said, okay, so are we like going to go home? Is the show canceled? And he said, no, we're just going to sweep the water out of the ring and you can go in there. And I said, okay, thank you. There was mold in that ring. I was disgusted.
And that's probably also where the common sense plays in. I mean,
Right.
it's not just like the wrestlers, but I love people in general, but I'm gonna be that person. Like there's a lot of promoters that don't think things through, or they don't like put the fans or the wrestlers like needs and
Yeah.
stuff in consideration. It's like, well, yeah, it's freaking hurricaning over here. We're gonna have a match. It's fine.
Right. I was
Yeah.
so confused. I said you could have literally just pulled up your weather app. Like,
Yeah, you don't have to sit and watch the news. Just
right.
go on your phone. Like, ask Siri, be like, girl, what's the weather like? And she'll
Right.
tell you.
Literally, she'll say there's a hurricane. You should stay inside.
Yeah, exactly. So, speaking on like sometimes people straight piss you off and stuff. So, how do you feel about like the hardcore death style weapons matches?
I grew up loving ECW, so I like them. I've done a few, but I'm more selective with them now because I'm very selective with who I trust. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and that also plays the part of like, if let's say you're going against someone that may not be as good as you, and they're like, the promoter's like, well, yeah, we're gonna put you in a weapons match. That might not be so smart having like someone fresh out of training and someone like who's been in it for a while and doing it. So
Yeah.
I get it. So like on the other side, like how do you feel about like intergender, male versus female?
So because I was trained very old school, my trainer didn't really like it that much because I understand like it's common sense, you know what I'm saying? Like no one wants to see a girl get decked in the face by a guy twice her size. Like
Yeah.
I understand. But though I'm also selective with those also. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm also not gonna get in there with somebody that's like 300 pounds heavier than me, you know. So
Yeah. I mean, I also feel that like I'm not a wrestler. I give it to you guys. I say it on here all the time. I love wrestling, but I'm gonna leave the moves to you. And like at the show I seen you at, and at a lot of other shows, like I am so loud, like everyone can hear me and be like, "That girl's crazy." So I think I would take my voice and like become a manager and scream at you that way. Be like,
oh hell yeah.
"What are you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
And pull out the common sense card. Like, do you have that? Like, why are you laying in the ring? Get up, get your ass moving.
Right.
So yeah. So have you ever had a intergender match like against another one, or you haven't had that yet?
Literally last week I was in a 8-person tag and I was the only girl in there, so it was really fun, but after the match was over, I was like, y'all gotta relax.
Yeah, like leave me alone. So was was
like,
your husband in that one, or was it?
He was, yeah.
I was gonna say, because that is that like, have you two had a match, or has that not happened yet?
We wrestled at a gender reveal, and he was obviously team boy and I was team girl, so that was a lot of fun because I think we wrestled for like close to 30 minutes for no reason. Like you would think it'd be a match, but we were like, no, we were gonna go an hour, but it was too hot for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in like that case, like since you guys are married, it's like you guys can have that like comfortability. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And like it's not like you have to think about this and that, and it just comes as it is. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm gonna be that person to have like a baby gender of wrestling, have a wedding of wrestling.
It was a lot of fun. It was very unique. I really liked it. I think we're gonna do that too.
Yeah. So is there a little you?
10 years down the road.
Not yet. Soon. Yeah. But I'm gonna keep on my feet.
Everyone like that wasn't at the gender reveal was like, is Clara pregnant? And I'm like, you just saw me get kicked. Like, are you dumb? I still get mad about that thinking about it.
Yeah, because like realistically, do you think a pregnant woman will be doing flips and moves and all that crazy stuff?
I was so confused, and I wanted to like just say something to them, and my husband was like, no, you have to be nice. And I was like, I don't think so. When you're that dumb, I don't think so.
Oh my god, I think we should be besties, because I get that like all the time. Like my dad tells me, and my like best friends tell me like, be nice. I'm like, they're just like so stupid. Especially if they're older than you, it's like, come on now, you've been around. What are you thinking?
That's what I'm saying. And I think that the problem is that nobody tells them, like, hey, maybe like read a book or something, you know.
Honestly, and like,
if everybody says, oh, it's not my place to say something, then whose place is it?
Well, it's gonna be mine, because if you like it or not, I'm gonna tell you how it is.
Mm-hmm.
No, I love it when they try to say like the newer generation. Like, no, we know what we're doing. It's you.
Right.
Like, not pointing anyone out, but since it's my podcast, I'm pointing out all my coworkers. Some of you drive me nuts. No, they know it. I tell them how it is. I'm like, a lot of them, I love my coworkers. Some of them. They're like 60, they in their 50s and stuff. And they get mad because I'm like their supervisor. I'm sorry a 16-year-old gets to tell you what to do and you're mad at it. But maybe you got to start paying attention. No, I'm just kidding. Right. But back on the wrestling topic. Do you think it's going to be like an age thing, a mindset thing, or an injury thing that causes you to call it quits and retire?
I think it'll be my own decision, because when we do make the decision to have kids, I want to be full-time mom. I want to be at home, stay-at-home wife, stay-at-home mom. So, like, just whenever we're ready to have kids, which is not anytime soon. So.
Yeah. So do you think, like, even at that point, like, your husband will probably continue to wrestle, obviously, after the children and everything? Do you think, like, you would, I don't know how to say that. Do you think you would, like, obviously, you're going to show your kids at some point, and, like, if they're like, Mom, I want to do this, and you know how it is, like, backstage and obviously being involved in a whole, like, what would your response be to them?
I would make them wait till they're 18, of course, because I had to wait till I was 18, and I feel like it's better that way, because I see some people that have been like wrestling like on the road since they were like 14, and their egos are like up here, and I'm like, they bring it down here. Like, relax.
I love that.
So I would be supportive, but I would let them like train around in a ring, obviously, when they're like 16, but not take bookings or anything until they're an adult.
Yeah, and like that's also like a thing of, especially about like the different states, like there's always shows every weekend. Like, that's a good thing about wrestling, but at the same time, like all the different states have their like different rules. Like one state, it might be you can start wrestling when you're 16, one might be when you're 17 or 18. So I think telling them about it, showing them the shows, and be like, if this is what you want, go for it. But me personally, I've been behind scenes and in scenes, so I grasp. I can't speak English today, but you know what I mean. Like, obviously wrestling's great and everything, but at the same time, there's that drama. There's people are gonna be weirdos and fans are gonna be crazy. So there's a lot you also gotta think about. Like, okay, wrestling's cool, I want to do it, but it's the commitment.
A lot of downsides to it.
Yeah, like, you gotta be all for it. You gotta be like, okay, I get there's gonna be weirdos, but don't listen to them. So I get it. So what motivates you to continue to like wake up and be like, I want to still be a wrestler?
Just, I keep thinking of little me, who is like, I want to main event WrestleMania one day. And then I was like 8, and it was still when like women weren't being used the way that they are now. And my brothers used to have, like, we would play wrestle all the time. And during our little WrestleMania shows, I'd be like, I want a main event. And they were like, girls can't main event. And so I just keep thinking back to that moment and being like, I need to do it just to shove it in the face and be like, look.
No, definitely. So obviously you have your brothers. Are they actual wrestlers too, or is it just you?
It's just me. They used to want to, but they gave up on it.
Wow. And now you if I was you, I'd be like, oh, well, who's gonna main event these shows now, huh?
Whenever I was on a show with Chavo Guerrero last week, and I was like, guess who I just met? And they're like, what? And they like freak out, and I'm like, could have been you.
But you didn't do it.
Right.
No, that's really great. So obviously being involved in wrestling, you get to meet like a lot of people, a lot of fans, and a lot
Mhm.
of wrestlers. Have you ever had like that moment where you like met a bigger star and you were like fangirling, like, oh my God, like I met them? Has that ever occurred?
Thankfully not yet. I'm surprised it hasn't, but at WrestleCade this year, they're bringing the Hardy Boys, and Jeff Hardy was like my all-time favorite. And everyone's teasing me. They're like, "Oh, you're gonna fangirl," and I'm like, "No, I'm not."
Oh,
So, because I cannot even promise myself I won't.
no, honestly, like there's so many times like if I were to meet that wrestler, like if I haven't already and I meet them, I just like I can't speak proper
Yeah.
English. Like even when I had Alpha on, I've seen Alpha a gazillion times. Like I go to his shows, I talk to him all the time, and like, but when we were on here, I was like fangirling. I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a big fan of you and all your cousins. And I'm like, I can't speak proper English when I have you on. I mean, even for me, still being the fan and podcaster, I still think like my favorite is more the indies. I prefer the indies. So like whenever I meet an indie star, I'm like, oh my God, so I met this wrestler. And I tell my coworkers about it all the time, and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, just shake your head and agree.
Right.
I'm just sitting there fangirling. It's okay. And I swear to God, that's what I did when we went to Rhode Island, my dad stayed at home with my brother. So when I came home, I was like, oh my God, Dad. So there's this girl that I really, really like. She's a bad bitch. She's a heel. I really like her. And I'm like, I'm gonna get her on the podcast. So I was definitely fangirling over you for a little bit.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Of course. So in the indie scene, is there anyone that you currently like have your eyes on that you want to have a match with?
Savannah Evans, she signed to Impact right now, but she's a local North Carolina talent, and all the North Carolina girlies have wrestled her except for me. So I'm just waiting because I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. But literally everybody but me has wrestled her. So
wow. Well, fingers crossed it happens.
Yeah, because I think we could really have a bad bitch match because she is a badass bitch. I love her.
Exactly. There you go. That's what we need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Now, overall, big time, small time, it doesn't matter who, alive or dead, if you could have a dream match with anyone, who would that person be?
Oh gosh.
A lot of pressure.
Mickey James. I've always loved her. I've been obsessed with her, and she was at an AML show and they announced that she was booked, and I was like, am I wrestling her? And then the booker was like, no, she's injured. And I was like,
you were so close.
Broke my heart.
Like so close. I was right there. No, but that's great. I think follow your dreams, because a lot of times I've always said it on here, like I would say, who do you have like in the indie scenes, who do you want to have a dream match with? They'll say it, and like literally a month later they'll end up having a match with her. So I'm like, I did that.
Oh my God.
I put my luck on you somehow. So now we'll go back, and like if you get a match with either of those, be like, it was that girl. Girl I did her podcast with. She like sprinkled her pixie dust somehow. That would be crazy though if that happened. I'll be like, oh my God. I'd be calling you, be like, how did this happen? But that would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
So for you and upcoming shows, where can people find you at?
This weekend, unfortunately, I'm back in Mount Airy, North Carolina. It's the worst place on earth. So if you're traveling, I do not recommend going there. And then Sunday, I'm in South Carolina if it doesn't rain. And then I don't know where I'm at next week. I'll have to look at it. I'm somewhere. I'll announce it on my Instagram, but yeah.
Yeah. And so do you have and so do you have merch? And if so, where can people purchase it at?
I do. I've been told to get a pro wrestling tees, but I don't want to be that accessible. So you're going to have to come to a show and buy my merch.
All right. So guys, you heard it here. I'm going to be leaving Pennsylvania just to go get some merch because I don't live anywhere close, but it's okay. But if people
if they ask nicely, I guess I'll mail them merch too.
Yeah, if they're nice.
Yeah.
But if people wanted to find you on social media, where can they find you at?
I'm mainly on Instagram at Clara Wrestling. I'm also on Facebook at Clara Carter, but I don't really post anything. I barely post. So I post on Instagram than anything. So
yeah, I don't know. Instagram is so much easier than Facebook. Like
yeah.
you literally just pick the picture you want to post and that's literally it. Like you just type the words. On Facebook, it's like, well, you gotta hit this and do that. And like I posted on the podcast Facebook all the time, like, go follow on Instagram because I'm more active on there than I am on Facebook. Like it's so hard and like it's a lot of old people on freaking Facebook anyway, so it kind of works better for us.
Right.
But thank you so much for coming on. You definitely are one of my favorite female wrestlers right now, and I continue following you. You're doing great things. You're a bad bitch. I love the heel in you.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Guys, please, please, please click the link. Her Instagram is down below. Just click it, give her a follow. It does not cost you anything. I see like what bad bitch she is and what crazy moves she be doing. She faces so many great stars and all scattered in the stage. She's faced Cosmic, right?
Yes, I have. Yes.
And probably Christina Marie. I think you were in like one big match. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. There were like so many great female wrestlers that I was like, oh my God, that's a lot. Like, it's not that common to have a lot of female wrestlers. But when I seen that one, I was like, okay, I see you.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, guys. Please, like I said, give her a follow, give me a follow, subscribe, like, do all that fun stuff. And do not forget, guys, the t-shirts will be coming out in like 2 weeks. So if you want a t-shirt, send them DMs. Not just for me, but for her. If you want her t-shirts, you got to be nice though, because if not, you're not getting nothing. Respectfully. But I hope you all have a great night, and I will be back next week. Bye.